We'll call the June 4th, 2024 call council meeting to order. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Ms. Walden,
Here.
Mr. Chambers,
Here.
Dr. Lee,
Here.
Ms. Mapp,
Here.
Mr. Reynolds,
Here.
Ms. Shinholster.
Here. Okay, the first item on our agenda is budget discussion. So at this point, I'll turn it over to City Manager Hank Griffin.
Well, as I was telling Councilman Reynolds when I came up the steps, this spreadsheet has turned into a monster. So much so that I ain't done with it yet.
Oh, that's a real monster then.
Is it gonna get longer?
I had a thought today, and I've been putting that thought in all day long, and I want to tell y'all what that is. Mr. Reynolds and I talked back and forth for the last week about looking at some different ways to do some pieces of total years of service differential, as well as trying to see if there was just a lot of moving parts on it. That, you know, when I brought you all the initial recommendation or the initial draft, it was to do the 2.5 step increases for 1 year, 3 year, 5 years, and 5 year increases. And that was what your original worksheet had on it. Mr. Reynolds put some formulas in and did the same thing with those steps of 1, 3, 5, and 5 year increments after that, and made it the increases 2% for each one of those 10-year terms, as opposed to 2.5%, which is what the steps on the salary scale. But we also in that included some total years of service differential, because as you all brought up when we were initially discussing it, we've got some people who have been in their positions a relatively short amount of time, but have worked for the city a very long time. And so we needed to try to figure out some way to make a difference there. And that did make a difference. It made a difference on the bottom line in terms of what the entire increases would cost. And I think it made a difference in some of those people who were in that situation. Not everybody. So there are some folks that we're still going to have to look at individually for that piece. But we know we had a few folks that we had to look at individually last year. And so that's what we'll do. The thought I had today was, if you all remember when we looked at the increase last year, we did pay grades 8 through 14. The pay grades increased by 6%. Pay grade 15 to the end, which I ran it out to 34, although we have nobody on pay grade 34. Those pay grades increased by 5%. Okay? So I thought, well, since we've kind of set a precedent there, why don't we carry that all the way through? Not the percentages, not the 6 and the 5%, but the fact that we had a break in an area where one group of employees, based on their pay grade, had 1% less of an increase than another group. So what I did was I took everybody who had a pay grade of 24 to 15, which 24 is the highest we have anybody on pay grade. I took the folks who had a pay grade of 24 to 15, and I did their 10-year increase at 1.5% for the 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and then 5 year increments after that. For everybody 14 to 8, which 8 is the lowest pay grade we have, I stayed with the 2.5% for the step increases for the 1, 3, 5, 10-year increases. That didn't change a lot on the bottom line, but it even better, I think, stratified the pay scale across the group of employees. What really made that work is when you took either that 1.5% or that 2.5%, depending on where the pay grade they were, and added the differential for the total years of service. And what the differential is Walter, I had these written down, I didn't bring them up here with me, so help me remember. For up to 10 years, for 10 years, between 10 years and 20 years, that was 1%.
It basically it's 1% for every decade of service after 10 years.
Okay. So for example, I'll just give you an example of one that I have here in front of me. Our fire marshal, Captain Bradsford. Okay. He has been in his position for 17 years. He's a pay grade 20, so he's at the 15-year mark. Okay, so he would get 1.5% for the 1, 3, 5, 10, 15 year, and then his pay differential, based on the fact that he has 28 years of service with the city, is an additional almost $1,200. I know that's a lot to digest without looking at it, and you all will have the opportunity to look at it before I leave tonight, I can assure you, because I'm going to get them printed and get them put in your box. But my question to you about that is two things. Number one, does one or either of those alternates sound like it's getting to the point where you all want it to get with what my initial draft said? And number two, if that's the case, I think it might be good if everybody could for us to have a lunch meeting on Friday to look at this spreadsheet together, and you have all the numbers in front of you at that point in time. And basically everything with the budget is done except for the salaries. Well, not basically, everything for the budget is done except for the salaries. So we've got to get that nailed down in order to be able to pass something like that. So I'll hush talking for a minute, take your questions, take your comments. Let me know how. Now, like I said, I know it's going to be difficult to know without seeing the numbers, but I'm really pleased with the last option that I told you about, where everybody on a pay scale of 24 down to 16 gets 1.5% for their 10-year increases for the 1, 3, 5, and then 5-year increments after that. And then if they are 14 to 8, they continue the 2.5% increase. It follows the logic that I really like, and that is that when you're looking at percentages, it gives those folks who are on the lower end of the pay scale
Exactly.
more of an increase than the folks on the upper end of the scale. Now, not more in terms of dollar amounts, but more in terms of percentage increase. And since we did that last year, we've set that precedent in order to be able to do that 1% difference between pay scale 14 and 15. And I think you will see that will be. Here's the good thing.
Hey y'all, I want to share.
I'm trying to turn it off.
That's all right. He could probably add something to what I'm saying.
He wants to share.
Here's the good thing about it. Okay, the initial draft that I gave you, where everybody got 2% for their 10-year increases, that is the maximum amount. If you look at all of the increases put together, that it will be. Okay, and I gave you those numbers knowing that we could sustain that. So anything that we do in these other two alternates that I'm talking about is ultimately going to be less money on the bottom line. So it's not going to mean that we have to pull any additional money out from a salary standpoint for the total bottom line.
That's for everybody.
That's for everybody. That's right. Now, obviously, the people that will not have any kind of increase are those people who have been at the city less than 10 years had been in their current position for less than a year. Because remember, the increases are triggered by 1 year in title, 3 years in title, 5 years in title, and a 5-year increase in title. So if we have a person who's worked for the city for less than 10 years, and they've been in their current position for less than a year, but keep in mind, since I've been city manager, so that's been for 5 years. Doesn't seem like it, does it?
No.
So for 5 years, people who come to work for the city, newly employed, when they successfully complete, with the exception of police and fire, when they successfully complete their 6 month probation, they go up to the next step. So even those folks who have been with the city for at least 6 months, but maybe in their position less than a year, they've already gotten a little bit of increase on the front end because when they finish their probation step, which was a 2.5%.
Ooh, that's a lot.
It is a lot. That's the reason I said I was cross-eyed, the reason it didn't get done today. So, the other thing that I would ask you is if there are, based on the first draft that I gave you, if there are specific individuals that you want us to look at, that you think we need to look at, and I'm saying we, because y'all are ultimately going to vote on it, but I'm putting the numbers together, then please either send me a text or an email with those individuals' names so I can look at them and see, number one, if these alternates that Mr. Reynolds and I have worked out are taking care of their situation, and if they're not, to determine how else we might be able to take care of their situation. We have just a very, very few. Actually, I can't even think of one who have been in their position for less than 3 years and have been in the city for a long time. But then there's some other folks who have been in their positions for a long time, they've been in the city for a long time. Taking care of them from the standpoint of where they need to be at this point. Because remember what I said when I handed you the first draft, this to me is about pay increases, yes, but this payroll, or the payroll for this budget to me is about making sure the folks who stuck with us during COVID get rewarded for it. Because we all know that we actually were in pretty deep. We actually fared fairly well during that time, but we did have some folks that left. A couple of them have come back with their hat in their hand. But when they came back with their hat in their hand, even if they went into their original position, as far as this budget is concerned, they've been here less than a year.
How would these increases be given out?
Well, what I originally wanted to do, and I don't think we can do this anymore because of needing to look at these other options. What I originally wanted to do was make the 1, 3, 5, and 5-year increment increases, 10-year increases that folks got from now on. And so if somebody was hired, we can say, if you successfully complete your probation, you're going to go up 1 step, which is 2.5%. If you get to year 1, you're going to go up another 2.5%. If you get to year 3, you're going to go up another 2.5%. We would have to stay within the confines of the salary scale in order to be able to do that. So my thought was, if we could do that, then everybody got these increases when this budget started on July 1, and then the 10-year increases kicked in future years, and those happened on the employees anniversary.
That's for the new people.
For anybody that had been here once they got past this budget. So for example, if you had somebody who their increase was based on 5 years of service in their current position, okay, my first draft, that gave them 2.5% for 1, 2.5% for 3, 2.5% for 5. In this budget, they were getting a 7.5% increase. When they hit their 10-year anniversary, there was another 2.5% increase for 10 years. Not even talking about what may come along in terms of cost of living adjustments, merit increases, those kinds of things.
Well, but, and I guess my question to that is, I understand what you're saying, I understand what you're doing, but is that realistically sustainable? I mean, I'm looking at growth for the city. I mean, we're kind of going to hit a stale spot if the city doesn't grow anymore, and we're continuing to do this.
Well, I would not make the 10-year increases something that was automatic.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, your policy for 10-year increases would be written in a manner that dealt with financial exigency, all those kinds of things that would drive that.
We would have to have some type of
answer your question,
review financially before we
ultimate
could say that.
question, it would not be sustainable without increases in revenue.
Right.
Which are either going to come through annexation, which we're currently working on, or increasing the millage rate, or increasing
Right. Everything.
fees like we've done.
Everything.
Like we've done. I mean, we're hitting a really good lick in increases this year
Mm-hmm.
without having to increase the millage rate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think probably by Friday I'm gonna have a pretty good idea about what the digest.
Well, I've talked to so many people over the last 3 or 4 days that are appealing.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know.
Oh,
Me,
absolutely.
I mean, it's just
Yeah, what-
everybody's fussing about.
Wade actually
that.
emailed me and apologized for not answering my email. Like I talked bad about him at that meeting a couple of weeks ago. But he said he has been meeting with taxpayers every
Constantly.
minute.
Yeah, I know. And so that's why, my thought is let's don't put that cart before the horse until we know, because everybody's fussing about that. So we have to be able to say that that's what we're going to do, so they won't hold. And I'm not talking about me, future council members accountable for something that they may not realistically be able to do. So I would really just hate to have that as part of the policy. That may be something
And
we
it
can
would
look
not
at
be
later
part of the
on,
policy.
but I wouldn't want to have that as
My
part of the
thought
policy.
on the tenure piece was that it's a way to give increases. It's a way to figure increases fairly easily if you have the funds.
Right, because I know, once upon a time the state did everything that we're doing. They gave increases after 6 months. Every year, everybody got a 5% increase, or this, that, or even more. And then it just flatlined, and then for the 8 to 10 years there was nothing, and then everybody gets mad and want to say, well, this is what was done. So you don't want to have that. Our whole purpose for reviewing this was to be competitive.
Yep.
And now these tenure increases are for individuals. So my question to you is, what becomes of the pay plan? Because is the pay plan competitive for when we need it? Because you have a whole lot of people in here with a whole lot of years that within the next 5 to 10 years are going to be gone. Is your pay plan going to be
I think
competitive?
for what you all did last year, your pay plan is competitive. And that is being indicated to me based on the number of applications we're getting as opposed to this time last year.
Right, but still we're not doing anything to the pay plan, because other people are still going up on salaries on their pay plan, and we're giving money to individuals. But what are we doing to stay competitive in the market for hiring new people?
Well, I'll go back to what I just said. I think our current pay scale is competitive.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't know that we will ever be able to compete with some of the industries that are around us. But I do believe that the pay scale that you all passed last year is a competitive pay scale.
Yeah, I just want it to stay that way. I don't want us to lose ground with that, and because I know the county's increasing again, and you know, Putnam County has already increased again, and we're going to be right back to where they're going to be coming back. They're saying we're losing people because all of these other, and Bibb County increased theirs. So all of these other people are moving forward. I don't
Well,
want
and I think that's what
actual
this
plan
tenure
to
piece
stay the
does
same.
too.
Yeah.
It enables us, I think it gives us a better chance to retain the employees that we got, so they're not going to public campus.
Right. That's for the younger ones, but I mean, you got, like I said, you got a lot of them that will be headed out soon.
Just because of attrition.
Right.
Yeah. If I could build on what you proposed there, Denise, you know, it sounds like passing it for this year would probably be acceptable, but before we make this a part of the policy moving forward, we may want to have the time between now and next budget season to see what those collections look like and see about implementing this as an annual increase for tenure experience in the next budget cycle. But that gives us a little breathing room between now and this budget being passed. Kick it out to next year. That way we have time to really analyze and see if that is something that will be sustainable. Would you agree with that assessment?
Well,
just-
yeah, and I you know, the 10-year plan is just something working in my brain.
Right.
It's not a policy. I have no intentions of asking y'all to make it a policy. It's
Because
just-
if you don't have the money and the funds are not there, you simply can't give a raise.
That's right.
We've had that happen a number of times where council just said there couldn't be a raise.
And any good policy that we would look at implementing in the future, I think would have, you know, a contingency in there that subject to appropriate funding and collections, that this would be applied. But
You know, when we recentered the pay scale last year, obviously you all know that we had a number of people that ended up being paid the same amount of money because of the way we did that, and their longevity was not looked at
At all.
As I mentioned, when I gave you the first draft, I thought the first thing we needed to do, needed to try to do this year, was to stratify the payroll based on those years of service. We call it tenure, we call it longevity, we call it. And that was what my first draft did. It just did it simply. And when I say simply, it just did it based on the steps on the side on the pay scale. That was the simple part. And kind of got everybody recentered. If we look at this 1.5%, 2% idea, that's going to kind of get everybody. That's going to get folks off center on the pay scale again. But that's okay, because what it's going to do is it's going to consider folks tenure and longevity. I think what ultimately has to happen at some point in time, I hate to say this, but at some point in time, we will need to have a study whereby we look at reclassifying positions, because that's the other piece that, you know, you got your pay scale and you got your pay grades, and the whole classification is where your pay grades are. And I don't know when those will. I mean, we've changed a couple of them that I've brought to you on the budget, but does anybody know the historical side of when the current position classification was done, the pay grades were set?
2012.
I know before last year, the last pay scale change, it was 20. I don't know if that's,
So.
I don't know if that's what the actual.
No, we did something like that. We did this paper there. When we
Well,
did the scale.
I'm gonna make this comment, and that is that I thought what we were trying to do since last year is to right our ship. Our ship was leaning, and it was leaning bad. We had people jumping overboard. Things were happening that we didn't need to have happen. And I thought that step one was what we did last year, step two was what we're supposed to do this year, and then I would hope and this is what I was reading from conversation, is that we will do a pay scale study, and then we will determine competition-wise where we need to be, what needs to be reclassified, how we do it going forward. And then that is what we really worry about sustaining going forward. And, we sometimes get to talking about several different things at one time. Hopefully we can just focus on this one step now, get it done, and then I think as Walter said, from now on, from this point forward, we got 365 days. See what needs to be done. Get a pay scale study done, or have it approved to get it done, see what the cost of it is, and take into account what we need to do to be competitive within the Central Georgia area.
Well, one of the things that I asked y'all when I had that first draft out was that what y'all thought the next step was, and I think we all agreed that trying to get the payroll stratified a little bit was what the next step was. Like I said, this was just a really simple way to do it. You could. And you had to do it this way, because if you just simply did percentage increases or cost of living increases or whatever, you've still got people who've been here forever making the same thing that people who've been here short.
Yeah.
And so that was my thought in trying to get this step increases. In years past, I know Mr. Jarrett did it, and I think we did it the second budget. Since I've been we did actual dollar increases, not dollar, but money
Yeah.
increases through those folks making the least amount of money got the greatest increase in terms of actual dollars. I looked at the possibility of trying to do that with this, but it just, once again, you kind of created a situation where everybody's bottom line turned out to be the same thing, because we're starting. I really think when you all can see the numbers from the 1.5% increase and the 2.5% increase based on the pay grade where folks are, at least for this budget, I'm like Mr. Chambers. I'm a little bit hesitant to do a study, because typically studies involve talking to employees. It kind of sets,
And they're expensive too.
well, and it sets an expectation, and you might not be able to meet that expectation depending on what your revenue is, but I think that's where we are at this point. But I really do, Ms. Chinos, feel like the pay scale y'all passed last year is a competitive pay scale.
Okay, that's all. I just want to make sure that we remain competitive, even for new positions and new hires. We don't want to just go back to where we were before.
We've got some
Amen.
areas that we're struggling, firefighter trainees, police officers, trainees, we've been making folks. My colleagues across the state tell me those areas.
Everywhere.
Public
Yeah,
safety,
right.
public safety, and those are the most difficult positions to
Mm-hmm.
fill.
Yes, everywhere.
We actually, I think we only have maybe 2 water treatment plant operating positions up there. I think that's the fewest we've had up there since I've been here.
Public safety is always competitive, no matter what. And when you have departments across the state that all of a sudden find themselves in dire need, they're the ones that become aggressive and throw stuff out there. And they're also the ones that tend to have the more turnover even thereafter. Because people get in and then they say, hey, I'm not doing a whole lot better than what I was, and especially when you find out the cost of living where you are. because most of those are in the metro area, but,
I believe, write this down, this is not right. I believe when we start working on the budget next year, we're gonna see a lot of reckoning from some other cities that paid their increases to ARPA money, and
They're not gonna be able
to.
Yep.
And some of those public
I
sector
believe that.
positions are gonna be,
I agree.
there may even be some layoffs.
Oh, so, on that note, where are we with I know this is a change of subject, but I always think about this, the higher the salaries go up and the pension plan that we have, the more it's costing us. And can we, so where are we with that?
That, the.
We've been hearing for almost a year and a half now.
The changes are in the court in Atlanta. The actuary that we have been working with, is no longer with the company. He
Mhm.
got an illness and had to retire.
Okay.
And we are waiting for them to come back, with number one, who's gonna take his place. And number two, we had the meeting where we told them we want to look at the defined contribution.
Right.
That was, and that reminds me of something that I should have already told y'all. Shay and I talked about the percentage funding for this budget year.
Mhm.
We have 14% in the figures before you. But I think especially we did 13% this year, right, Shay? Yeah. And I think, and we went to 13 because of the payroll increases that we had.
Right.
I think this year we probably won't even do 14, we'll probably do 13, maybe 12, because of the payroll increases. That does two things. Number one, it gives you more revenue to put these payroll increases into place. Number two, your pension cost kind of stays the same, because obviously as salaries go up, if the percentages stay the same, those pension contributions increase. So I'm old. We most likely will go back and look at 13%. But to give you a timeline, Michelle, I don't know. I was hoping we could have people on a defined benefit plan, defined contribution plan by January 1.
Right.
That's still my plan.
The council made that request more than 5 years ago, and it was a request that was out there even before you became city manager, and it's just, I just don't understand why we're still here, because like I said, everybody else is going to something different, and it ends up costing us more money the more we take these salaries up, because some people are just waiting for these salaries to increase, stay here another year, and that's added to their benefits, and so it ends up costing us more in the pension plan. So that's why I'm asking, because we don't ever get updates as to where we are with that until we happen to ask one more time, well, what's going on with that particular thing. So it's just been, I know it wasn't something easy to do, but at the same time, it's taken entirely too long to get it done to me. But, and on that note, I'm just gonna say it because I get asked that all the time too. Retirees wanna know what about their salary increases? Okay, I mean, really, how long has it been since they had a salary increase? It's probably about 20 years. What I was told was it was about 20 years since they've had one. And, every year we say that when we're doing budget, but it never takes place. Has the pension committee even talked about it? Jeanette?
No.
Steve?
No.
When's the last time there was a salary increase?
I don't know, I've been in this position, oh gosh, I don't know, what, 12, 14 years, and I know we've never had one.
So,
We've had
We
one.
have had
because-
one?
Yes.
Okay, well, it was done without pension committee then. I don't remember
I know
voting
we
on it, I'll
talked
put it
about
that
it
way.
because Linda's.
You remember
husband
voting on it,
called.
Jeanette? You've been on there longer than I
right,
have.
right.
I know that we did do one because I remember that Linda Weldon's husband,
Growing.
before he died, he had called me and I had brought it up and we did give a
You know what,
pension
we
raise
did.
then.
I remember now, yep,
Uh-huh.
yep. But it's been quite some time.
Yeah.
It has been, but we did do one.
But it's something that we don't address during budget time.
Right, and
We need to. It needs to
yeah,
be
it needs to be
a part
done.
of it every year, whether we do or not. And also, you know, while we're beating this dead horse, the 62, I think is going to help the city. And retirement at 62 with the health insurance and being able to take that with you. And that's going to give us some turnover at the top and have opportunity for some people to move up and some positions lower down to be opened up and people to move around but we got to get it done. I'm gonna ask you this, Hank, you know, quit waiting on them. Tell them we got to get this done and tell them we need it done now and to put somebody in there that can jump right in that cart with us and let's go. Because I've been waiting
Have
for
to have the
several
actuary.
months. I've asked you about once a month about calling a meeting and you know, it's always waiting on them. Well, I'm tired of waiting on them. We're paying them
Yeah,
money.
we've been waiting on them a
Well,
long
I
time.
think, Mr. Jordan, Mr. chime in on this, but, I think we can start on our own looking for defined contribution products.
Oh, we can do that, yeah.
We don't have to wait on them for.
But that doesn't get us to the point of being able to vote on what we need to do.
Because we'll have to have an
To
action.
me, that is the critical part of it, because then that gives us a timeline to have to work with, to get a product, to get this thing installed and everything going. That's what is the frustrating part of it for me. We've been talking about this for 10 years. 10 years. And we need to do something. It needs to be done now.
Those new hires are now vested.
Yeah.
Under the,
Yeah.
under the, that, plus some, because we've been talking about it for so long. We started talking about it years ago.
What are you talking about with the new
Changing
hires
to,
of this?
changing to, if we've been talking about it for 10 years, it takes 10 years to get vested. So I
I
said
see
those
what you're
new
saying,
hires
'cause
are now in the.
New hires are not vested.
No,
You
no,
know,
I said, but
No.
I said those new hires. Okay.
But are new hires, are they under the,
Yeah.
Right, right.
do new hires stay under the current program? They do.
But we were talking about at that time changing it out the following January so we could start a new thing. And we've had 10 more Januaries since then.
I remember we voted on it when Scott
We did.
Wood was here.
We did.
because
I
he
mean,
was
that's
wanting
just how
5
long we've
years.
been talking about it, and it's still not done.
So what'd you vote on when Scott was here? Why wouldn't
He,
you-
Wanting to go to a 5-year.
he wanted to go to a
Okay.
5-year and
Or, this-
Best.
Rokas.
We voted that down, but at that time, we said then, we're going to get this changed so that we won't have that problem anymore. And we- Huh?
What?
Look at the bright side, very natural because of that.
All right, Bo. I can't even say nothing.
I just remember when we really was discussing because it
Yeah.
come up and
Yeah, that's what I said. I'm not talking about something that hasn't been beat to death.
I think there was a devil with that.
Yeah.
Ooh, he
Well,
must
I mean,
do.
I will admit,
Trump is
if y'all hear me use this as an excuse very often, But I will admit, during about 2.5 to 3 years when we were operating on COVID,
Though
the pension plan was not on my
we
mind.
just, and we didn't
So we
have,
lost those years,
Mhm.
or I lost those years based on getting something done. So, I'll take the blame for that one. We will move forward.
well, remember, we lost the attorney too. The lady that was the attorney then, she got sick and wasn't able, so we had to get a
Is she
new
back?
one.
And hey,
Gotta get a new
there's,
one.
there's no need for
She was the one
blame,
that helped us
okay?
fight.
There's no need for blame,
Yeah.
none whatsoever. But there is a need for action.
Right.
And,
Right.
and we continue to have reasons as to why we can't get this done. And, you know, for a long time, for several years, it's because we didn't even do anything about it. We didn't talk about it, we didn't bring it up, it just wasn't on, and that was pre-COVID. But bottom line is, we've already had that meeting, we met with them, through Zoom,
They were going
answered a lot of questions, did all that. Somebody can take that ball up.
I mean, especially when you hear all
Yeah.
these cities with GMA saying, "Oh, we changed our plan, we changed."
And if they can't take it up, then we need to consider a new actuary.
Yeah.
Well, and that, I mean, that's one of the first places I think about defined contribution programs is through GMA.
Right, right. So that's what I was thinking. You know, the way they talk, I was thinking it would be something that we could get GMA to
And I
help us
think,
with
I think we can.
and move
They
forward.
would be just tickle pink for
Right.
us, I think. And, you know, I mean, our current funds stay local, but they could stay local and pay out the ones who are vested in the defined benefit plan, and then the GMA folks help us manage the defined contribution plan.
Yep.
And, yeah, I can assure you that if I let GMA know that we want to do that, they will be here tomorrow.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
let 'em know.
that's what I'm saying. I've heard
Let
so
'em know
many
tomorrow and we'll
cities
see 'em
that
Friday.
said Since we're gonna meet
Tell them we're having a lunch meeting.
they need to be here.
We'll provide lunch.
So that was about to be my question. Is everybody good for, I promise it won't be but a 1 hour meeting on Friday to finish ironing these salaries out
At 12?
at 12?
Good.
Should be able to do that.
I'm working out.
Walter's in a position of being in a new position for less than 1 year, so he is,
Yeah, but we on summer hours. We get out at noon on Friday.
Okay, I didn't realize that, summer hours.
All right, so let me ask one more question about this, and speaking of beating a dead horse, let me ask one more question about it, and then I'll leave it alone. Is there any other combination of these increases that y'all have had a great epiphany about that you want to see the numbers on?
You gonna give us a new sheet Friday, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So-
Ma'am. But I want to make sure there's everything on that sheet y'all need in order to make a decision. You all will have 23 this size.
Perfect.
Great.
Ms. Shinoda, that's all I have on the budget.
One more question. I know that you said that basically this salary part was the only thing that was left on the budget to do, but I, do know that, and then I do know that you had told us that with the departments, you just increased it by so much.
Right.
But those requests that were outside of just departmental stuff, positions and stuff like that, are we just gonna ignore
My
those this time?
recommendation is not to change anything with number of positions.
Okay. We just had not,
Right.
they made their presentations, but we had not discussed any of those other things, so I just wanted to know where.
And once again, that's my recommendation. I mean,
Okay.
you all pass the budget, so if there's things you want to look at.
The one place that I tend to stay a little bit concerned about new positions is the crossover between public works and, thank you, stormwater. And I know that we contract out work so that, you know, that probably allows people to go back and forth and do all that. And Tim must be a fantastic juggler of doing that. But that's the one place that I get a little bit concerned about.
I think because when the stormwater department was created, basically initially all those employees came from public works.
Correct.
And I believe, I'll have to go back and look, and I'll give you, I'll tell you if I'm right or wrong, and if I'm wrong, how wrong I am on Friday. But I believe we are within one position of having all of those positions replaced in public works and still have the stormwater.
Fully staffed. Okay.
But I'll tell you that for sure on Friday.
Okay. All right. I know he had mentioned to us supervisory position. I think that was one of that if I'm thinking correctly off the top of my head, that was one of the positions.
I have some concerns with that department getting top heavy.
I do too. I have concern with all departments
too.
getting top heavy. That, you know, I don't want to mention one department, but you know, one I wonder if you keep putting in these new positions, who's going to do the work?
Exactly.
Everybody else going to be telling everybody else what to do.
That's true.
Just running it right down the line.
That's
So
one of the reasons, you know, through the last 5 budget cycles, I
Thought I turned it on.
I have suggested new positions to y'all that are very limited. So I think we have a good number of people doing the work.
yeah.
And I think as these salaries increase and to Ms. Shell's point, get even more competitive, we need to start holding folks' feet to the fire.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I'm good with that.
I agree.
Good with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's my next step after we get pension situated is to start looking at performance.
Mm-hmm. That'd be perfect.
I agree.
We need to be doing
Yeah.
that.
Perfect. Let me make sure I got this right. We're meeting on the 7th, Friday, right? This coming Friday.
Yeah.
And remember, if there are folks on that first draft, specific individuals that you want me to look at, email me or text me and let me know who those are, so I can make sure that I've set those aside to be able to say to you, here's where this person ended up with the accommodations that we're talking about.
Well, I don't know that I can get it in. Pardon? I'll certainly try in the morning, but I just don't know how many, they probably set that paper by now.
The weekend
Tomorrow will
paper?
be Wednesday.
The weekend paper?
There may be a chance, but the deadline is basically yesterday.
So they,
First of all, I'll check in the morning. This was put in here, requiring public hearing. So will you send me whatever I need?
Tuesday, Thursday, weekend,
Will you send me what I need, and I'll get with Amy
Monday,
first thing in the morning
Tuesday,
and ask her to hold us a spot open if she can.
Thursday.
If we run against Saturday's paper, that gives us enough time for Tuesday. I'll have to check. Okay, because usually it's a week, at least a week. My ads I run require 1 week, at least 1 week's notice. So let me know all that, I'll appreciate it.
okay. Do we need to go into a closed session to discuss property or personnel? And I'll receive a motion.
Motion to enter executive session to discuss property and personnel.
Second.
That got you a little, just a fraction of a second.
I'll ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Ms. Walden? Aye. Mr. Chambers?
Aye.
Dr. Lee?
Aye.
Ms. Knapp?
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds,
Aye.
Ms. Shinholster.
Aye. Steve got that in there.
you.
Sir.
Where's Walter at?
Return to.
Okay, it's been motion and second to return to regular session. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Ms. Morgan,
Aye.
Mr. Chambers,
Aye.
Dr. Lee,
Aye.
Ms. Mapp,
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds,
Aye.
Ms. Shinholster.
Aye. Okay, there's no further business. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
To adjourn.
Second.
Clerk.
Everybody says aye.
Everybody said aye.
Gavel.
Ms. Morgan,
Aye.
Mr. Chambers,
Aye.
Dr. Lee,
Aye.
Ms. Mapp,
Aye.
Reynolds,
Aye.
Ms. Shinholster.
Aye, I'm sorry.
Preference